Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the studio. Another episode of Beyond the Horizon podcast. And look, before we dive into things, I just want to ask, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. It helps the podcast get out there, gain some more traction. If you like any of these videos, please click that thumbs up and then share it with somebody. Really working hard to make sure that we get these messages out there. I believe from the bottom of my heart, these conversations can change the lives of other people. And it's going to take an effort from all of us to make it happen. We are actually 6 months into doing this now, and I'm pretty fired up. I've learned a lot. It's been a great experience, and I'm really looking beyond the horizon to see what are the next 6 months and 12 months ahead. So I'd love to get some feedback from you. If you are listening to this now, leave in the comments anyone that you would like to see on here, any thoughts or recommendations or whatever you want to do, just share, get involved. Anyways, so today it's just me, and I want to share with you 20 pieces of advice over 20 years of life experience. So I just turned 40, and I thought, what a great way to ring in being 40 by giving my 20-year-old self a little bit of advice. 20 lessons that I wrote down, and I feel like over the last 20 years I have come to a conclusion that these are truths. Now, take a listen to these, and if you feel that you resonate with them, shoot this off to somebody who's in their 20s still, because they're really the ones that need to hear it. It's not us who are reflecting back, but those of us who have time ahead. And in line with my goal with the podcast is that we can look beyond the horizon. I think some of these things many 20-year-olds have not figured out, and we might be giving them some insight into the future. So in no particular order, let me kick these off and get started. The first here is, don't waste time in toxic relationships that deplete you, because God has one for you that will make you twice the man or twice the woman that you thought you could be. Man, did I spend some time in my late teens, early 20s in relationships that ultimately they were not the people that God had for my life. I probably could have seen that, and I was ignoring the signs. So I think toxic relationships come in different forms, but if you're in one, really check and look and just say it. You probably don't need to spend the time in that. Now, if you've got kids and you're already hitched up and you've done all of that, then this is a different set of circumstances that might complicate it a little bit. But if you are unmarried, without child, and you're dating and you're trying to find your partner, let me tell you this, the long-term partner that you're supposed to be with is not a person that feels toxic to be around, that arguments are always, being initiated, where you want to pull your hair out, you're aging because of it. That's not what he has for you. So definitely, although it's easier said than done, it may be time to cut ties there and move on. Okay, number 2, sacrifice lifestyle now to invest heavy, and you'll be indestructible when you're 40. Look, I've been in financial services since I was in my early to mid 20s. I didn't take the advice. I mostly looked at I would make more money and make more money. And I didn't take the sacrifice of lifestyle the way I should have in my 20s to invest and build a war chest that made me indestructible by the time I was 40. Now, I've learned those lessons, and thank God there is more time for me. But if you're in your 20s right now, by all means, sacrifice the things that society makes you feel like you need to have. The cars, the luxury goods. If you're spending money, you'll see in one of my other points here, maybe experiences, but invest. And if you don't know how to invest or where to invest, reach out to people you trust that are already investing, or seek a financial advisor. Okay, there are many out there who will give you some advice, but investing, look at it this way. You are purchasing your future lifestyle. It's hard to wrap your head around this when you're in your 20s, but every time you put $1 into an investment that builds equity, that grows in value, you are putting a little bit of money towards buying what your lifestyle in the future might be like, and you're aiding yourself in not having to work to pay for that lifestyle then. All right. Next one. Life with children is so much more fulfilling than life without. I know that I had friends in my 20s that knew they wanted to be dads early, and they did that, and their lives were fulfilled. They saw that then, and they had that intuition, I guess. Then there's other people that I know that are, gosh, they're all the way in their 40s and they're still not ready. I believe firmly that if you wait until you're ready for children, you will wait forever. There is no way to fully be ready when you don't have any to have experienced yet. So don't worry about that. And I can promise you this, that the life you spend with children, the sacrifices that you make, the hours of sleep that you lose, and the amazing fun times that you have, these are all things that are so much more rewarding. I think one of the biggest things on the list that prevents people from having kids is that they want to travel or they want to do things that they don't have the responsibilities of little ones. And I'll tell you, you can travel. It might be a little bit more work to get there and to come home, but I mean, shoot, we went international to Aruba before my son was 1. We were making trips on airplanes with 2 kids. We've now done it with 3, but we had traveled to Aruba and Quebec and other states around the country before my kids were even out of diapers. So don't worry about that. You can make it happen. And although it's a little more challenging, I can guarantee you this. It is more fulfilling. 100%. All right. Debt is a tool for investing, not a buy now, pay later program. Definitely had my fair share of this way of thinking that it's okay, I was going to make more money later. So if I spent that money now, or even if I didn't have the money, I could put it on a card and I'd pay that card later. Well, guess what? That other money finds a use later. Debt adds up easily. It's a game that's super profitable for those who are offering the cards, not for those who are using them. Credit cards are an amazing tool, and debt overall should be looked at as a tool, and you use the tool to advance forward. So, rule of thumb, use debt to buy assets because those have tangible value. They appreciate over time. You borrow money to buy an investment property. You borrow money to buy inventory that you can sell. You borrow money, maybe this becomes a little bit more challenging, but maybe to add an employee to scale your business. But with debt does come risk, don't get me wrong. But if you're going to use debt to deploy it towards things that make you money, not to have things that make you look a certain way, feel a certain way, like luxury items and things like that. And especially not just everyday living expenses. Debt should not be used to fund a lifestyle long term. It's a trap that is super challenging to get out of. So use debt as a tool. There is good and bad debt, or better and worse debt, and we can get into that deeper in another conversation, but do not look at it as a buy now, pay later program. When I was in my 20s, we didn't have these after-pay or for-pay programs to pay things down. I heard that last Coachella that happened, there was some crazy percentage of the tickets were purchased with buy now, pay later programs. That is not the way to be making your experiences happen. This should be motivation to double down and figure out, how do you increase your income? And when you have the income and the surplus and you're able to stick to a regimented process of paying for your life, investing for the future, taking care of your taxes, covering all those things, and then you got extra, then maybe. But don't use debt as a buy now, pay later program. All right. Your potential is way higher than you think. Don't mess around with small goals. I remember having a goal that I was going to break $100,000 by the time I was 25, and I did that. And I thought I was like crushing it. I was doing better than some and nowhere near many. And so I think if I had a goal, I was going to figure out how to break 250 or 500. I definitely would have done more than I actually did. I didn't start believing in setting big goals and getting creative and really trying to push myself to achieve them until I was really in my 30s. In my 20s, it was very much live by default. And if I was doing more than maybe the average person around me or than the average person at that same age, this was something that I got really stuck in, this mentality that I'd look at my age and I would often be told by people who are older than me that, man, they were never doing things like this at my age. And so I took those compliments as sort of like a permission to settle at where I was kind of landing by default. If it was better than most other people at my age, I was like, oh, that's all right. I had so much more potential. So don't let other people determine whether you've reached your potential or not. Go after it. And I'll tell you, you have so much more in the tank. What's going on, everyone? Today's episode was brought to you by Policy Engineer Insurance Solutions, a company that my brother and I own and are passionate about helping people with what we call the stable table planning, health, wealth, and legacy planning to give you a stable, predictable retirement. If you want to know more about how we do what we do and what areas we can serve you in, visit policyengineer.com. Make the commitment to getting in good shape now. Life is really that much better on the other side. I struggled with being overweight and body image and food addictive type issues and stuff for the majority of my life. I kind of yo-yoed on losing weight sometimes, but I never felt like I had the physique that I had wanted. Actually, I still don't have the exact physique that I wanted, and I'll call it out here. 40 is the year I'm getting in the best shape of my life. I've been in better shape than I am today, but I'm going to be in better shape than I have ever been, and that's the commitment for this year. But my point I'm trying to make is I used to sell myself on things like this character. I was the big guy, and I had always been the big guy. I had a nickname in middle school that went into high school. Some people still call me today, but Big Pops was my nickname. And so I just kind of lived into this persona. So that meant that I was always the one that ordered the biggest meals. I drank the most when we partied. I always did everything in excess. And I had kind of convinced myself that was me. I would tell myself things like, God didn't build me to run, look at me. But it was me who built me into a body who wasn't built to run. And then later on in my life, I got into running. I got into fitness. I got into health. I started eating differently. And I used to think, man, my life would be so much better if I got control of this. And I can tell you, it was so much better. Not having like a addiction to food and being able to control what you eat and being in better physical shape, life is significantly better. So make that commitment and get yourself into better health if you're not already there. All right. The stock market will have one of the longest bull runs in history. Participate heavily. You could argue other things did as well, but man, the stock market just clobbered and grew and built many times over what most people would have thought of. Now, if you're in your 20s and you're hearing this, I guess the way to really take it is there is an investment category where there is tremendous amounts of opportunity if you lean into it. So pick one and go for it. I love this one. I think about it every time I see one. Keep your VW bus. You're going to wish you had it. Now, that would be really more advice to my 18-year-old self. That's the one that got rid of it. But dang, do you know what a rust bucket pile of junk, not even the best model year VW bus is going for these days? It's insane. I got mine for $900 in 2002. My parents got it, bought it off a neighbor for me. 2002, $900. That same thing today would probably cost like $9,000. So if you have any car today that you think is cool, very highly likely you're going to think it's even cooler when you're older and you're going to wish that you had it. So find a way to keep it around. All right. Probably one of the most important on this list. Show love to those you care about in the ways that they receive it best. I read a book after, I didn't read this book until probably 2018. And it's the 5 love languages. And it's understanding that there are 5 ways that we perceive and receive love as humans. And you've got like your primary and your secondary. And truthfully, the bottom 3 out of the 5, you might not even recognize that somebody is displaying or giving you love because it was spoken in a language that you don't really understand. And on the flip side, you're trying to love on people you care about, but you're doing it in a way that they can't even understand. It's in a different language than them. So you've got the 5 love languages. You've got words of affirmation. Some people need to hear things that make them feel loved. You have physical touch. Some people need to hold hands and hug and kiss, and they need to feel that warmth and affection through contact with the other body. You've got gifts. Some people need to be given things. Doesn't mean they need to be expensive, but you need to take the time to find something that fits them, that they like, that they would want, and give it to them, right? Giving these gifts is how people feel love. You have acts of service, doing things for someone else that might be things that you naturally do all the time, but they would love for someone else to do it for them. It could be taking out the trash or cleaning their car, or there are so many different things, but acts of service. And the 5th one is quality time. Spending time, quality time, undivided attention, phone down into the thing that they really love. Like, that's something I've learned the most with kids. Kids have things they really love to do that are on their level, and they're not normally on our level. And so when you can spend time with kids in the way they want to spend time, that quality time, doing something that they want to do, where you got to get out of your adult mode and get into their mode, those are probably the things that fill their bucket the most. But anyway, if you've not read this book, I would encourage you to go read the 5 love languages, understand them, and the people in your life you care about. Get focused and committed on showing them that you love them in the language they speak. I spent years thinking I was an excellent deliverer of love to other people, but I always delivered it through physical touch and words of affirmation, because those are the ways I receive it the most. And so I would always give it, not realizing that it was really perceived as me doing things for myself and not really for that person. I think if you learn this, you'll also receive more love, because since I've understood these 5 love languages, I think I've been able to perceive when love is being given to me, even though it may not naturally have been my way to receive it. I can see when someone's wanting to spend quality time. I can see when they wanted to give me a gift. I can see when they are doing things as an act of service to me. They may not fill my bucket at the same degree as if they were words of affirmation or physical touch. But you know what? They do fill my bucket because I actually could see they're trying to love me. So learn to love in that way, I think, is so important. All right, moving along here. Make every moment away from those you love worth the time away. I took a lot of work trips. I spent a lot of late nights. I did a lot of happy hours. I did a lot of things where it took me away. And I don't know, actually, I can guarantee that not every time I was away was truthfully spent in the most effective way possible. So now when I leave, whether it be I've left for the day for work or I'm leaving on a trip, those hours of those days gone, they need to be hyper-focused on things that advance forward. Alrighty. Maybe this is the most important one. To my 20-year-old self, you've already met the love of your life. It's Libby. Start pursuing her now. You might get to start life with her sooner. You might be out there, you might actually know the love of your life, or at least have met them. I met Libby when I was in my early 20s. We did not start dating. I didn't pursue her until I was 24 going on 25. Like, I could have had 3 or 4 years more building, growing, getting to know her, and actually have completely avoided a relationship that maybe had little nuggets of things that it did for me, but ultimately it didn't serve me the way she is today. So, I shared with you that don't waste time in toxic relationships that don't feed you. The person who you're supposed to be with, you might already know them. They might be in your circle. They might be one extended relationship out. But my 20-year-old self gets started earlier pursuing her. Tell more people about Jesus. He hasn't come back yet, but he will. So the time is near. The time has been near. In Bible times, things are a lot longer, I think, than we expect, right? I don't know if the Israelites thought they would be there for 40 years, but they were. I don't know if people aren't living as long as they used to, but my whole point is, if you're a believer, spread the word. It feels good. It becomes easier the more that you do. And he's not back yet, but he will return. And it's important that those we love also know about that. Times will not always work out how you plan. Be ready to pivot fast. I feel like for a long time, I personally had a season, really long season, where everything I did worked out better than I went into it expecting it to work out. Even when something looked as if it was a problem, the problem worked out that it was okay. I could sort of live life every day, live through my career every day, relationship every day, kind of on autopilot. It got to a point where I was on autopilot. And unfortunately, autopilot was not like autonomous driving. It was like cruise control. Well, cruise control, for any of you back in the day, you 20-year-olds buying a new car today, it didn't work out this way. Go buy like a 2005 or older car. Cruise control just meant that it would hold the speedometer where it was. It was like locking the gas pedal at a certain speed. You had to control the brake. There was no sensor that was going to stop you from the thing in front of you. So when your life goes into a zone of autopilot and you're not constantly designing and recognizing that actions have consequences, you could crash and burn. And so really look at and pay attention and recognize that not everything just works out the way that you intended it to. Not every decision you make on the other side is going to pay you how you thought it would. Not every partner is going to have your back the way you thought they would. Not every economic climate is going to stay the same, right? Things don't always turn out the way you plan, and you better be ready to pivot. I don't mean that you have to have plan B and plan C, because having a plan A and an only plan A will put all your energy towards that. You just need to recognize when plan A is driving at a wall, you got to hit the brakes, you got to grab the wheel, and you must take control again. Quick money doesn't answer your problems, it exposes them. So I had a season where I thought, man, if we just had money, that would be the answer. And that money exposed problems I didn't even know existed. So I can look back now and say, I learned lessons, there was value in the money and the mistakes, but don't kid yourself that just quick money landing in your lap would be the problem. This is the exact reason why some astronomical percentage of lottery winners have no money a few years later. They go bankrupt. They win hundreds of millions of dollars sometimes, and they go bankrupt. Because it exposes the problems. It'll expose that you're frivolous with your money, that you're over trusting with people, that you don't understand economics or investing or all of these things. You'll get taken advantage of. Relationships that weren't true now exposed. All this stuff happens. It's the reason why when people receive inheritance from families who did not train, teach, and equip them for the financial legacy that they've built, that money's gone. Statistically, 3 years after receiving a large windfall of money, the average person has less than 20% left of what they've received. this is an issue. So just remember, quick money doesn't answer the problem. It exposes it. Surf a lot. You wish you did. Surf a lot. You'll wish you did. I love surfing, even though I'm not that great at it. I could never be a professional. I'm not competitive in it, but I love it. I feel at home in it. I feel refreshed, rejuvenated. Like there's just something about being in the ocean, and it's not replaceable with the wave pools. Done the wave pools. They're fun. Does not replace the feeling of being in a giant body of water, paddling just a little bit further than the furthest guy out and looking and seeing nothing but the horizon or an island or whatever might be out there. But so that's my advice to my 20-year-old self. If you're listening to this, what's something that you would advise that you wish you would have done more of? Guess what? We can still do it. I'm so committed to restructuring some things within my life to ensure that another 10 years doesn't go by. And I say to myself, I wish I found more time to surf because I love it. And so whatever it is for you, if you're 40 now, if you're 50 now, if you're 60 now, odds are you can still participate in that thing on some level. Man, go do it. Don't live another 10 years and wonder that. Money spent on experiences is 10 times better than money spent on stuff. I believe this wholeheartedly. The experiences that we can have in our life are so important, and they do so much more than stuff. Now, sometimes stuff can provide experiences, don't get me wrong. Like I have my heart set on a sports car that I could have track days with and do things. So that's like stuff that leads to it. But ultimately, experiences are way more valuable than just stuff, having higher end clothes and brand name this and whatever, right? Just walk away with that. Money spent on experiences is 10 times greater than money spent on stuff. Okay, coming to the last 4 here. Focus on your strengths more than your weaknesses. You will get so much further. We live in a world where there's an obsession around trying to fix the stuff you're not great at, but we talk a lot less about leaning in and doubling down on the things you're really good at. I think one of the best examples of this would be for me in business. When I hired a personal assistant and I delegated everything that had to be done for our clients, but did not have to be done by me, I doubled my income. Okay, you heard that right. I doubled my income in the following 12 months of hiring a personal assistant because I could focus more on the things I was strong at. I think this is true across the board. So it doesn't mean we shouldn't know what our weaknesses are. But I think in most cases, it's that we can delegate our weaknesses and double down on our strengths, and we will have a way more significant outcome. No one will work for your dreams as hard as you will. Make sure your moves are aligned with your desired destination. Whatever it is that you want out of life, the goals you set, whether they're monetary, physical, relational, spiritual, nobody is going to do the work and accomplish those goals for you. And no one's going to want it as bad as you want it. So you've got to make sure that each move that you make is actually taking you in the direction of the destination you're trying to get to. For at least the last 10 years, I've kind of thought of life like this wild land that's uncharted, untrailed, unwalked through. Or maybe it has been walked through, but the destination I'm looking for, this like mountaintop so far in the distance, I can't actually see the trail. And what's right in front of me sometimes is just brush, and I've got a machete in my hands. Well, I better make sure that every move I make, every swing that I'm chopping down and creating this trail, that it's going in the right direction. And sometimes we don't have to like pave our own paths. There's a path right there. We can go and we can find it. So just make sure that the moves that you make are lining up with the places that you want to go. It's okay to pay other people for your answers. Look, this goes along with this idea. You don't have to pave your way every time. I used to think that I needed to figure things out. And I didn't realize the value in it until I paid for answers. I paid for access to a conference. I paid for a mastermind. I purchased a program from somebody. I bought and read books. I listened to podcasts. I spent time, bought meals for people so I could engage and have conversation with them. Other people have your answers. You must go find them, and it is okay to spend your hard-earned money in exchange for those answers. Now, there are some people out there who claim to have the answer and they don't. I got burned on marketing multiple times. I thought they had my leads. They didn't. I spent money on programs before where I went and I was like, I could have taught this. They didn't have any extra answers I needed. So you should vet out and look into it, but don't be afraid to spend your money to find ways how to advance and get more of it easier. Or maybe it's not a money problem. Maybe it's a relational problem or something like that. Don't be worried about spending money to find the answers that you need. You're just delaying time trying to find them all on your own. And this brings me to my last lesson, is guard your time as a precious treasure because you cannot get any more of it. I have had many times in my life on both a micro and a macro level where I have allowed my time to be spent and I can never get it back. The time may have been spent pouring into people who made it very clear already that they did not deserve that time because they squandered and wasted other amounts of time I had already given them. There are times where I allowed my time to be spent because of FOMO, fear of missing out, what was going on that night or that weekend or that little getaway thing, having to be a part of the scene. That time couldn't come back. Those hours that I ended up wasting away on parties or just hanging with people who didn't advance or do anything because I had this fear of missing out, where maybe sometimes that time would have been better spent by myself, or better yet, spent with God, but really helping me have more clarity on where I needed to go. So look at your time, see how it's spent, delegate things that don't have to be done by you, and guard your time for yourself, and only give from a cup that has space to give from. If you give too much of your time, your cup will run dry. You'll have nothing left to give. So guard your time. If you take nothing from this, it's so valuable and you need to treasure it. So guys, those are my 20 lessons that I've learned over the last 20 years. I plan on staying focused on them for the next 20, on living my life a little bit differently because of them, being more intentional. And ultimately, I plan to come back at 60, drop another 20 lessons over 20 years. And hopefully, I'd love to hear what some of your lessons are. Drop in the comments over the last 20 years. What's something that you would advise your 20-year-old self? And if you're listening to this and you are in your 20s and you have something that you got out of this, I'd love to hear in the comments, what was that one piece of advice that you're like, man, I needed to hear this. All right, guys. Let's close out as we normally do in prayer. Lord, thank you so much for an opportunity to be behind this mic, to share some lessons with folks. I really hope that anyone listening to this takes it to heart and actually tries to put into action one of these, because ultimately we all have an opportunity to look back, and hindsight is 20/20, right? But look, the rear view mirror, we know, Lord, is smaller than the windshield. So I ask that as we look at our past, we look at it only to get a glance of what that history looks like and the lessons we could have learned, but we focus most of our time through the windshield going forward, living life in a way that's more fruitful, eyes set on the horizon and how we're going to get there, always keeping you in the middle of everything. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.